Jeremiah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while. It's been
Yeah,
a while
man.
since you've been on a podcast.
I know. I think it's been like almost 2-3 years
Yeah.
since.
Do you want to just push the mic a bit?
Closer?
Just a bit forward. Yeah, and then just, if you want, you can just angle it. Yeah, perfect. I shouldn't be telling you this because you already know. Yeah, you should be all good.
Alright.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've done a podcast.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
It's been good though. I've been like, it's actually good to just come and not have to worry about setting up.
Not even just setting up, but like even just thinking about the editing and
Yeah, bro.
going through the process. Oh, is the sound okay?
Or even having like questions prepared. I felt like when I was coming on my way here
Yeah.
and like just grabbing my keys, I was like, this feels weird. Like just walking out like this, like just coming in as a guest feels weird. But
Yeah.
Pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
No, grateful, man. Tell us about the studio. How was your experience with the studio? You walked in.
Bro, this shit is sicky, man.
Yeah.
I love it, eh? It's like it's crazy to think like all the YouTube tutorials that I've been watching. Like I remember watching back then like about podcasting. It's like this is all what it looks like if you do it right.
Yeah.
So
Like
if you follow those tutorials, this is what it's gonna look like.
Yeah. Yeah, so big shout out to the Better Media Studio. For those out there that are, looking at wanting to, produce high quality content, or if you want to start your own podcast studio or podcast, head over to the Better Media. They do a lot of done for you services. Make sure you guys check them out. Better Media on Instagram. So if you guys want to hit up Nikki, send him a DM and he'll help you guys out. My question to you, all right, about the studio is: if you were able to restart, would you come here?
Heck yeah, bro. This is nice. It's so cool because like it's intimate too. The lighting is perfect here, man.
Yeah.
And like being in this space is just kind of relaunching all those ideas I want to do. It's like, damn.
Even that too, because I remember
nice.
before, which, we'll have a conversation about it like very soon,
Yeah.
like later into the podcast, but like when you were doing the table talk, you had it all around you, eh?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the roadcast and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's over there. Everything's like, you literally just have like
I
a
know,
clear table.
it's so clear.
Yeah.
I think that at that time it was just like we're just learning a lot.
Yeah.
We're just learning as we're going. So it was kind of in the deep end a little bit, but at the same time, man, I'm grateful as. But seeing where it's at now, like people coming up with their podcasts and things like that, it's like I'm glad. Like it's cool to see. You know, it's cool to see people like growing in their podcasts as well.
Yeah. Big shout out to Nikki. Thank you so much, bro, for having us
Thank
be
you.
here. But today, guys, I've got Jeremiah on here. And did you want to explain to the people how we first met? What was your first impression? When you first... I think it's funny, I thought about it. It was the first and last time we actually
met,
physically
yeah.
seen each other.
So we actually met through a colleague of ours, Jerry Fanene. Shout out.
Fanene. The Fanene family.
And this is the weirdest thing. I've never had this with anyone else, but I think we met up at that lunch, and we had lunch at Collingwood. And I remember just like the first time I heard you talk, like my thinking was, "Damn, I need to get my life sorted."
Wow.
I just remember thinking like this guy had his head screwed on. He knew what he was going to do. Like he had ideas and things just springing out of you. Like, and I think that was something where I realized this guy has, like, you have definitely got leadership on your own life. And not many can say that. Not many can say that they've got sort of a purpose and leadership, to lead their life.
Yeah.
And I think that was something I was really intrigued with you. And since then, like following on social media, we've always been like just keeping up to date with each other and stuff like that. So I think that's why it's been different.
Yeah. It's funny, we still don't remember how or why
Yeah.
we had it. We're still trying to figure out, even like before we jumped on, we're like, bro, we're trying to figure out why. But yeah, it was definitely much needed. Like, when I first met you, I was like, bro, like I realized that we were quite similar in terms of like the content side of things. Like we're doing podcasting then together. Like in terms of I was doing my thing, you were doing your thing.
Yeah.
And back when you were doing the also table talk, podcast, I looked and I was like, I knew you were the guy. Like you were the one I was running everything Which, you know, when you're starting a podcast, you definitely want to have like a guy to kind of like mentor on and keep it going. And so, yeah, I looked, I was like, bro, like, I definitely want to keep my eye on this guy because, like, even a lot of stuff that you're doing on the podcast, I was like, bro, like, even just having it at the Beverly Hills, like is it Beverly Hills? Or was it,
Bella Vista.
Bella Vista, sorry,
Yeah.
the Bella Vista,
Hotel,
like the
yeah.
hotel when you're doing everything. I'm like, because back when I was doing podcasting, I was just doing it through Zoom.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was just doing it in the comfort of my room. And then I was seeing you guys. I'm like, you guys were like literally had a full table. You had the boys around,
Yeah,
and
this
I'm
is
like,
kind of similar.
yeah, very similar to this. And I was like, man, I would love to have that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was watching what you're doing, and I was like, bro, like I definitely resonated with what you're doing. But you know, even that too, like the way that you guys were, you know, putting out the Pacifica name and stuff. I know that there was a lot of drawings that you guys were getting in terms of our community.
Yeah.
And it was definitely something I was like, bro, I gotta keep my eye on this guy. So, no, definitely grateful, and I feel like this is probably the best time for us to, you know, come back together.
Yeah, bro.
But my purpose as to why I got you on here is because you've got a brand, you've got like, you know, something that you've been doing behind the scenes, behind your normal life, and I'm definitely want to go through that. But before you do get into that, there are going to be people out there that are, you know, they're behind the brand, following community. They probably don't know you.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, is there any chance you can share who Jeremiah is?
Yeah, easy. So basically, Jeremiah Tago. I am a part-time DJ on the weekends, so that's pretty much my brand. DJ Wavez. And I've been DJing for about.
Wait, you forgot the sign.
Oh yeah. I've been DJing for I think since 2016.
Yep.
Pretty much the way that came about was from church, DJing from there, and it just all the little gigs and like birthday events and things like that, growing from there. During the week, I'm a social worker, obviously, but also I have a big heart for ministry. My main thing's always been like serving for ministry and things like that. So my wife and I are youth leaders as well. So that's one of our favorite things for the weekends as well. But I feel like youth leading is everyday kind of thing. So that takes up a lot of our time. But the biggest blessing for me is being a husband and wife, husband and father. Being a husband and a new time father. So it's actually really exciting. A lot to learn, a lot to juggle, but we're doing really well. Yeah, I'm grateful.
Appreciate you sharing that, man. And
thank you, man.
I think the first thing I just wanted to, you know, unpack from who you are is like ministry. You know, it's something that you said that's something that you hold dearly to your heart. Where did it all start for you in terms of ministry? Was it, you know, growing up? Did you find like, you know, ministry later on in your life? Like, what's the story behind that?
I think for the longest time, I've always known that. Like, I've always grown up in church. Born in a church, growing up in church, but never knew why we go to church. And I think it wasn't until 2013. Long story short, I moved down here. Ended up pretty much falling in love with Jesus. And
where'd you move from?
From Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah, so I moved from Brisbane to Sydney. Pretty much like dedicated my life to Jesus, and since then it was like a flowing of events in terms of growth and like the direction my life was headed. It wasn't until 2014 I became a youth leader at a local church, and since then it just grew. Like leadership was something I really felt drawn to. I loved listening to different preachers and different leaders, even different teachings as well. And I think that was something that really allowed me to lead my life in the way I wanted it to go, or that God planned for it to go. So ministry's always been definitely like a favorite for me.
It's great you say that because I know a lot of people would feel a bit, I guess, demised or despised on sharing, about their faith and like, even just journeying into like ministry and stuff. And you know what? Let's be honest. There's probably people out there that have been following you that probably don't even know that like you're half a ministry and that you're like you're a youth leader. And it might be because perhaps it might be because you have this like they have this vision of you of like, oh, this guy does like DJing, and that's all they see. They see DJ Wavez, and he's at these gigs and he's at these at the hotel and clubs and all that.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, right? They see that, but they don't see the true side of you. And that's essentially the reason why I wanted to get you on here, is because I know that there's so many people out there that need to know who you are behind the scenes.
Oh, that's actually interesting, because like I think I struggled with that in the beginning of my DJing journey.
Trying to balance, and also what was I portraying at the time, which was really important for me, because I didn't want to be someone who was one person and then like at the club and then another person at church. So you just wanted to hold your integrity.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. And I remember talking to one of my close boys about that. He kept me really accountable in terms of like basically remaining the same, and keeping that integrity. So whether it's behind a DJ deck, or behind a pulpit, like, am I still the same Jeremiah? Am I still the same like DJ Wavez? And he helped me understand, like, when I'm behind a DJ deck, like, we got to put some boundaries.
Yeah.
And make sure like I'm there to work. I'm not there to have like drinks or anything like that and try and have a cool party. But I'm there to work. I'm there to put in my time for this business, and then come home to my family.
Yeah. That, I think that's another thing that probably holds a lot of people back too. Like from going out there, and because you'll be honest, like the environment that you're in, like if you're a person that struggles with like, drinking or, falling into that trap of sin, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of you putting yourself in that environment, knowing that that's a very environment that's tempting you to get back into what you used to do back in the day? So, it is a hard thing, but it's great, man. I think one thing I'm getting out of you is to have like the right people in place, mentors and just people watching over you.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially in scenarios of going into areas that you can be led astray. But you know what? Essentially, I feel like you can be led astray anyway. Like, I don't think it's just in the club.
Yeah, definitely.
You can be led astray at work.
Yeah.
But going back to what you're sharing, like that's one thing I'm getting out of you is that you're definitely gonna have someone like the right people. To be mentoring you and guiding you, especially going through something that I would probably say is uncommon. You don't see a lot of people trying to balance the two, like ministry and like having that heart for ministry, but also having the heart of doing DJing as a part-time thing. I know a few people that do that, but it's rare, right? If anything, you'll see a lot of people like in ministry doing like social work or community services or just business, or you wouldn't see them DJing at a nightclub. It's very uncommon. So going on that, actually, so how did you did mention that you struggled with that at the start, like trying to balance the two. What were some of the key like struggles that you noticed within yourself that you were going through when you were doing the DJing and trying to balance that? Balance the two.
So I think at first my mentality was how people were gonna portray that. How people were gonna think about that. But to be honest, like, who cares? Like people like have their own problems to think about. And I think it took quite a while for me to realize, like, as long as I know I'm the same person behind a pulpit than I am behind a DJ deck, then that's fine. Like, that's all that matters. If I feel like it's starting to change a bit, then that's where I need ministry, or I need God to like really ground me. Not humble, but like just ground me in the sense of like understanding, like DJ Wavez isn't completely who I am.
There's something much more that you have in store, and if you look at it like from the flesh, like DJ Wavez is just there to cover bills or even that just build.
But it's also that like creative outlet.
Yeah.
You know, as a creative yourself, you know, like there's always that urge to need to do something or create something. And I think that DJing aspect of my life came out of the creative urges that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. And I appreciate you sharing this too, because I know it's been a while since you've been, you know, behind the mic
Yeah, bro.
and doing podcasting. But I love this, man. I love that, like, you're so open to sharing your journey, because there's definitely one person out there that's listening and be like, man, like, I wanted to get into DJing, or I was wanting to do that, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I know my heart for God. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, and they probably look at themselves saying, oh, I don't think I can do it. Now that they're listening to what you're saying, they're like, hey, there's one person already doing that right now. I can do the same thing too.
It's a journey, man. Yeah, it's definitely a journey. I think it's never something you sort of graduate and then relax on. Like, my guard is always up when I'm out there. But also at the same time, like, understanding they're people too.
Yeah.
Like the people you're playing to, the people you're surrounded with in clubs and stuff like that, they're people as well. And it's just having the grace and understanding, and we're there to, like, maybe whatever light I can shine in there, let that be. Might be a laser light or something, but
or smokes, you know, on their eyes, yeah.
But at least at least you're helping people have a good time. But at the same time, like, you never know who you're gonna come across in the club.
Yeah.
Like, I've met some friends that I feel like are lifelong friends now. But I've also met some people that, like, just needed someone to talk to.
Yeah. And like, you can be that vessel.
Yeah.
Like, while DJing at a nightclub. Like, it's like, you know, it's definitely something that you won't see common. Like, you know, having someone that's, you know, has a heart for ministry and a heart for God, and then being there and they're like, oh, I didn't even know that you know, had that heart, but, you know, it was all behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think, like, one of my main things has always been about making sure, like, my heart is always for ministry. But like, what good is a heart for ministry if you don't have a heart for people?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I like having that DJ aspect. I get to meet different people. It's not the same church people all the time, you know. And it's cool, bro. Like, just getting out there. The conversations are weird, especially when they're like, you know, you're getting different smells and stuff. Like, the music's pumping and you're like, oh, this is a good track. But they're like yelling in your ear, their life stories and things like that. But, man, I love it. It's all good.
Yeah, man, that's funny, man. That's crazy. And so I wanted to dive in just quickly, because you're mentioning your heart for ministry and then also your DJ, but you also mentioned social work.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely something that I can resonate with, because it was something that I, you know, got into before.
Yeah.
Like, in my own personal journey. And what triggered you to get into that, like get into doing social work?
So I was already doing quite a bit of youth work with leading my youth at the time.
Yeah, and that was just like voluntarily,
Yeah, that was all volunteering. And then I think it wasn't until my youth leader pretty much helped me get into the industry of social working. And I thought, like, wow, that's crazy to be able to actually do that as a lifestyle. As sort of my main work right now is just being a social worker and seeing that grow. I was actually able to start that job in 2017.
Yep.
And then from then on, just stayed in that same sort of line of work. And since then, I've been in the same industry. I think recently, I've just decided to gun for my diploma in community services.
Yep.
So just to kind of, like, it's been a lot of years, and I always want to grow in every aspect. And I think that's my vision this year, was to grow deeper in every aspect of my life. And I think that hopefully is a big blessing.
Yeah.
Just wanting to get better in my career and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so started off as doing youth work.
Yeah.
Through church.
Yeah.
And then you guided it through
to the social working,
going to social working side of things. Yeah, that's amazing, man. I will say this, like, from a personal standpoint, doing social work isn't easy.
Yeah,
it is not easy. People think it is because you're just talking to people, but
you gotta have some real thick skin, man.
Yeah, you gotta have real thick skin, but also too, you gotta have a lot of this.
Yeah,
Gotta be able to listen. You know, listen twice as much as you speak. But I know within myself, like I've gone through, doing this like social work and the youth work stuff, and yeah, I know definitely from a personal standpoint that one thing you definitely gotta learn. Oh no, one thing that you definitely have to understand when it comes to doing like work with people is that you're carrying the burdens.
Yeah.
And that is hard.
Yeah,
Especially when there's certain things that you can't do. Like, there's actually nothing that you can do because, there's that boundary of like professional and the duty of care and all that stuff. But I know from a personal standpoint, I've worked with certain people and I'm like, man, like I yearn and I empathize over them, but there's not really much that you can do. Like, in terms of like helping them out.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've kind of experienced as a social worker?
Yeah,
in your field?
I think sometimes I find that I'm really not as, like, I'm powerless in certain aspects. But the reality is, like, your 8-hour shift with somebody is not going to change a whole lifetime of baggage or trauma.
And it's funny because you think at the start,
Yeah.
right? When you start, like, yo, I'm jumping into
I'm gonna
I'm gonna save
change
everyone.
people's lives.
Literally, and then you I wouldn't say you get humbled, but you just kind of get the reality like check. You just get like a little bit of slap in the face and like, hey, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, right.
It's like I remember back in the days when I was like youth lead. Oh, I was youth leading, and I think I was speaking to one of the parents, and they came up to me. They're like, "Oh, hey, how was my child?" And I said, "Yeah, like they're really good. Like they're really enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying being around them." And then they kind of just slapped me in the face, being like, "Yeah, because you only see them for like 2-3 hours, like spend time with them. Whereas like we gotta spend time with them like for the whole week. So obviously you're only seeing like 3 hours worth of their time." And it kind of gave me like a bit of open. I was like, "Oh, you know what? They're actually right. Like although it's a bit of a slap in the face, like it's true. Like we really get to see like a small portion of their time. You're talking about the 8 hours. Like your 8-hour shift, you only see them within that 8 hours.
Yeah.
But there's so much that goes on after that." I think that's just the harsh reality of like there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's only so much that you can do. So like utilize the time that you have, but at the same time, like understand that like once it's done, right, let them do their own thing. Is that something that you had learned yourself?
Yeah, right, for sure. I think like realizing that you can't like change the world straight away or or someone's world, like the best we can do, I feel like as a social worker, the best we can do is be present with them. A lot of the times they've had inconsistent carers and things like that. So just being there for them, is the best I feel like we can do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that because when you're present with them, you're hearing them out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at it. Sometimes they don't need advice. Sometimes they just need to vent and just share and just actually have someone listen to them and kind of reciprocate with them and be like, hey, like I'm hearing you out. It's like, right, there's no greater feeling. And I think you'll know this, like if we're looking at like our partners, like there's no greater feeling when you're talking to your wife. I'm talking to my fiance, and you can just like everything that you've been bottling in, you can just share it to them, and then they'll just hear you out. There's no greater feeling.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's exactly the same thing when it comes to like doing the social work stuff, like being able to just be present with them and get them to vent out and just
And I think that's where it ties, like that part of my life ties in so well with ministry.
100%.
Because it's like I'm meeting people again.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm doing life with people again. And it's like I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, like each aspect. It looks different, so different from ministry, but again, it's people.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole heart of it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, just on top of the like social working side of things, like we both know that it's a tough gig.
Yeah.
Right. And it's definitely like you definitely gotta have like a bigger like trigger as to why you're in it. Other than like the face side of things, like within yourself, like what truly keeps you going in terms of like social work and going out there and helping people, like what's actually in your mind, especially when you're having conversations with like your clients or with the people that you're working with, and you're going through trials yourself. Like what actually keeps you going to still
Honestly,
be there for them?
Like if I want to be straight up,
Yeah.
it's like paying for my son's nappies.
I love that you're honest, bro, because like
as much as I want to go out there and like, you know, help
Yeah.
out and things like that, but at the end of the day, bro, bills got to be paid, man. Like, we live in Sydney.
Yeah. Oh,
And
bro. Yeah.
yeah, it's just if you're not like 2 jobs down, then what are you doing?
It's funny, 2 jobs down, including your fiance or your partner or your wife. They like they have 2 jobs too.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to sustain.
You're still trying to flirt and
Yeah.
still trying to have a good time, but oh yeah, I think like honestly, that's just
Yeah.
what kind of motivates me to keep going.
But it's also your son.
Yeah,
Yeah, like your family, like you being the provider. Essentially, that's what we're talking about. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily bills. For
I've
those
been-
out there that are probably judging,
I've
right?
been telling myself like my encouragement lately. Sometimes I don't feel like going to work,
Yeah.
but then there's always that thing like, no, my son's nappies aren't cheap.
Yeah. And not even that, the house that I'm currently living in is not
Yeah.
cheap either.
Man, I feel like anything like just a bit off topic, but
Yeah.
anything like that says baby before what it is, oh, it's just like an extra $50,
Yeah.
man. It's like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful, man. But as a provider, like I think that's one of my main goals is to like the man I envision myself to be is a provider. So.
Do you feel like, you know, growing up, the person that you are now is who you needed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look back at kind of where I started and who I am now. And one of my main things is always reflecting back and thinking like, is this am I happy with who I am? And I am.
Yeah.
I am very happy. I think I'm happy. I'm grateful.
Yeah. I see that in you, man. Like I see a lot. I look at you, and I'm like, there's definitely a real like reason as to why you are who you are.
Yeah.
But also why you continue to show yourself as who you are.
Yeah.
As in your integrity and, you know, keeping yourself like, if you're like you're not one person. Like, you know, you're not. Oh, DJ Wavez and Jeremiah are the same people.
Yeah.
Like they're not different.
Yeah.
The only thing that's different is what you do.
Yeah.
Like Jeremiah is just me as a person, and then DJ Wavez is just the persona or the brand that I put out there.
Yeah.
Just to distinguish the difference. It's like, oh yeah, my name is Jeremiah, but like, you know, my name's like my DJ name is, you know, DJ Wavez.
Yeah. I remember walking into like some like church rooms and stuff like that. Like
And they called you DJ Wavez?
They always call me DJ Wavez. I'm like, you know what? Like it used to ring in my ears a lot, and I remember thinking a lot of the times like that was when I was going through that trouble of trying to figure out who's who.
Yeah.
You know, but man, I'm just grateful I'm at that point where I can say like I'm the same person I am behind a pulpit than I am behind a DJ deck. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be in.
yeah. Even that too, like we're gonna dive into it very soon with the like your DJing journey and all that stuff, because, you know, that's the brand that you you know, provide out there. But before we even get into that, like I wanted to like touch base on, well, we already met through like Collingwood itself with, you know, Jerry. Shout out to Jerry.
Shout out.
Shout out to the boys. We met through there, but the way I actually my first impression of you was also Table Talk.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a little quick, you know, chat about that?
Man, I missed that.
Yeah,
like,
I miss it too, bro. I miss it.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like, bro, I want to get this guy on just to talk about like life and you. But I really wanted to talk about that because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't actually talk about those Table Talk other than being on there.
Yeah.
Or did you actually, was there like another podcast or anything else that you were able to share about your journey behind?
No.
Yeah, see, so this is your first time. So this is your time now to talk to us about your journey on doing that. So where did it all start? Like, how did it all start?
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Good old
during COVID. Yeah. Funny enough, like during that time, like was probably one of my deepest depression seasons at the time. I won't get too much detail about that, but I just remember, like, at the time there was a podcast that I was listening to, with Islanders as well.
Yo.
And just listening to them and hearing them, like, it gave me sort of a sense of joy.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when you're feeling alone and things like that. And I thought, like, the thought that came across my mind was, like, what if we could do that for someone else out there who's going through, like, what I was going through.
Yeah.
And we all know, for us, especially us Islanders, we're so, like, village. We have such a village mentality that it just feels like wrong if we're alone.
Yeah.
We're so used to having people laugh around us or talk around us,
Community.
and that was the idea, like, to build sort of a podcast that helps people feel like they're on the table with us, talking on the table with us. And because me and the boys, from the also table talk, we had already done life together with so we're all from Bible college.
Yep.
We had all met at Bible college.
So who's who? Just for those out there that don't know. Yeah.
So there's myself. Wait.
So DJ Wavez? Nah, just
So
got Jerry.
there's myself. Nons. He's one of the Nons. And then Rolling, and then there's Frosty as well. So it was just the four of us at Bible college, and I remember hitting them up on a FaceTime call, just checking in and like asking if they wanted to do a podcast together.
Yeah.
At the time, there wasn't really many Polynesian
There wasn't
like podcasts, I think, and we just felt like it was the right sort of time. We were saying to ourselves, you know what, let's put it up in prayer and see what happens from there. So it wasn't till I think the next week, one of the boys, Frosty, he was working in Bella Vista Hotel, and they had just finished building a podcast studio that was free to use.
wow.
So all you had to do was get in there, and the only catch was you had to give them a shout out in the beginning and the end of your podcast.
What you guys did, because that's how I remembered it.
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
But one thing I realized was like how powerful it was to just have the conversations that we're having, to dedicate time to have the conversations that we felt like needed to be heard was the best thing.
Yeah.
And like sharing those moments with the boys, like that were definitely highlights of my journey.
Yeah.
So I think from there it just gained like a good following. Like people were drawn in by our laughs, but stayed for our conversations, and that's what my favorite part.
Was after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like I just noticed a lot of people, especially this helped a lot with social media content. Like a lot of people reacted to the funny stuff, and then they stayed for the heavy conversations. And it was good to get around that. It was good to manage that, but at the same time, it was crazy. Like just sort of having to deal with everything behind the scenes on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough. But I was glad to have the support of like the boys, especially Nons, who was really helpful in everything I was doing. He even went out of his way to get a laptop to learn how to edit, and it was crazy. So he really helped a lot.
Yeah.
But since then, our journey's been good. Like I think we put it to rest in a good season, where we started seeing a lot more prepared people, or people who were able to dedicate more time to podcasting. We were able to see more Polynesian conversations happening, which was a blessing because that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Like the more Polynesian conversations, like we're not here to compete with you.
No.
Like the more Polynesian
I see it as like
conversations,
healthy competition.
Yeah.
Like we're just, there's a bit of competition, but like at the end of the day, we're both wanting to rise up. And that's one of the things I love about branding or whatever you're doing, whether podcasting or like for me being a creative, you being a DJ, like, there is going to be there's going to be that bit of competition where you're going to be like, hey, like, let's grow. The only way we're going to grow is by, going against each other. And what I mean by going against each other is like, that's the only way that you're going to elevate. Yeah. Is where you have a bit of a challenge that you can work around.
100%.
If we were all just falling into like comfortability, be like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like no one's growing. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. It's like at the end of the day, we're all, like, all the podcasters, all the, the Pacifica people, like we're trying to rise up together.
Yeah. I loved it too. Like just seeing the amount of conversations. I loved like learning how to learning off other podcasters as well.
Yeah.
Even just taking the smallest tips as well. It was good.
Mm. Even that too, like you said to me that you were doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So what was kind of like your system with that? Like, did you have like a process on how you would?
Yeah.
So talk. Yeah, I want to
Definitely
know about
my
this,
process.
bro. Yeah.
So I'm one of those like students of YouTube.
Yeah, true. Just self taught.
Self-taught, yeah. So I learned how to do everything in terms of podcasting on my own. And it was just hours and hours of like flicking through YouTube, trying to find out what's best for us. We ended up purchasing our own Rode caster as well. And it was very helpful because we were able to do it in our own homes or like take it away for a couple of episodes.
Yeah, right.
And the video editing side of things, that was a different ball game for me, because I think learning how to edit a podcast and syncing audios and then also trying to get the ums and ahs out of there, like it was crazy.
Yeah,
It was
time
a crazy
heavy
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely time heavy.
Yeah. And even just like learning a lot of things about how to, like in terms of social media was a big thing. Learning the right time to post or the right type of content to post. That was a experience in itself. And I think also my biggest process of learning was just sort of understanding analytics of like where the engagement stops and things like that, and then sort of directing the boys, okay, like people are engaging the most when it's like a 40-minute podcast or 50-minute podcast, but we're losing them out on like the later end of stuff, which is sad because sometimes it takes us a bit to warm up into, you know,
to getting into the deeper part,
deep stuff. So it's
you know what, but I think that's a normal poly thing, especially when it comes to men. Like you kind of have to give it a while to like get people warmed up before you start asking the hard questions. Yeah,
it's like building rapport.
Yeah. Which is what you're doing. Like when you're doing podcasting, like you're definitely doing that at the start.
Yeah.
Like even though we're doing that now, it's like, oh, there's a camera there, and they feel like they're a part of the table.
And I think that was a really good like experience for me, just behind the process, sort of learning everything, all the detail stuff, and man, I'll never forget the days where like I didn't have one of the cameras on for like the whole episode. And there'll be moments where like the GoPro is about to die and you just all you hear is a beep beep beep. I'm like, and he's in the middle of a deep conversation.
Yeah, but not even that. But like because you're the one that set it up, you already know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you're having it in your head.
It's so hard because like you're trying to be there and trying to be as present as possible, especially when it's on camera. Yeah. And then at the back of your mind, you're thinking, this DSLR is gonna die in like 30 minutes. So I've got to go quickly. Yeah. I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like, bro,
and then you already know, like from a social working like background, you just know that, you know, when you cut people off, you kind of feel like
you lose momentum.
You lose momentum, and then that might come back and be like, oh, I don't really want to share about what I was going to share. Yeah. Or they don't want to go as deep now because there was an interruption. Yeah. Or a disruption.
I'm just grateful that the people we had on, and even like other guests as well, we always like, it was like a disclaimer, like just letting you know this is going to happen. Yeah. So
and you know what, the good thing about that is that because you gave them that disclaimer, it gave them that ability to okay, like we understand, because you know too, you guys were growing. You were still growing even in, you know, even during that season. Yeah. So for them to realize, okay, like they're still growing, it kind of gives you a bit of that leeway of like, you just understand I might get up and have to change the batteries and stuff, but it's just currently it's just currently what we're working on. Yeah.
Even just sort of like working with the boys. Oh man, sometimes they're just like we're mucking around too much. And there's times when it's like, it's funny, and then there's times where it's like, Saleh, come on, bro. Like, is that really what you're gonna bring to the table?
I will say definitely one of the reasons why I loved watching like those table talk. It wasn't just like the deep talks at the end, but it was more so like man, like the aura that you guys brought to the table,
Yeah.
bro, is definitely like something I was like, man, I feel like I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing, like being in the audience. And I feel like there was definitely other people out there that were feeling the same way too. So, yeah, definitely the entertainment side of the podcast, bro, it definitely kept me engaged
Yeah.
throughout the whole thing. Like, I'll be listening to it. Because back then I was playing footy and I would listen to it on the way home. Like, it took me half an hour to get home from training.
Yeah.
And so I'll just chuck it on and I'll just be listening and I'm just laughing, like, laugh my butt off. And then, like, next thing you know, I'm like, oh, serious now, sorry. And I'm just listening into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing though. Like, it's cool to have those conversations. But it's also good to just have a laugh, man.
Yeah.
And what better people to laugh?
Yeah.
Some people just comment more on our laughing than. Like, I remember one of the boys said to me, like, those big laughing moments, like, don't be so critical about it that you have to edit it out.
Yeah.
Like, keep it in.
Yeah.
It keeps you guys, like, keeps people reminded that we're just as human.
You're authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're pretty much your authentic self.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
And the boys are definitely authentic. All right.
Yeah, but you know what? One thing I just got out of what you had mentioned is Bible college. Like, you guys were all doing Bible college then, or were you guys were
back then?
Back
at the
then,
time,
yeah.
So we were doing college at a local church.
Yep.
And I think at the time, like, we all had our fair idea of what God really wanted to do in us. But at the same time, we're like glad that we get to do it together.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Like, obviously, you know, islanders being drawn to other islanders, it's just a natural thing in us. So if we're in a room full of, like, in a white space or something like that, the brown people just connect, okay?
Yeah. And don't get offended by that. It's just how it is.
It's just how it is. Like, we see it also.
Yeah, the monoway, mate.
Just naturally drawn to each other, just feel connected. And but at the same time, that whole Bible college journey, that was an experience for us, man.
Yeah.
Like, to not only allow God to do what he wanted to do personally, but also like as a group, like for us together, man. It was good. It was good to have some brothers. There was definitely nights where, like, it was a struggle for us, man. Especially student budget.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like, do you have any chicken? Like, do you have any meat for tonight? Yeah, what's for dinner? Yeah, it was definitely a good life, like, experience for us.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Also table talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely something that you miss in terms of, like, the experience and the conversation that you guys had.
Yeah, but I think at the moment now, like, we're all at such
different seasons
of life.
And I know that you're not the only one that's a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frosty's was also a father as well. And, like, the boys are growing as well. It was just great to see, man. Because that's what we want. Like, we wanted, like, it was great we had our season together, but also to grow out in our own lives as well. But still connected, still on the chat.
Yeah.
Like, sending memes.
Just doing life together.
Yeah.
And I think essentially that's what it's all about. But also, like, I know this, like, I know the feeling of, you know, starting something and then having to put it to rest.
Yeah.
Because I've done it with my podcast myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that once you finish it, or, you know, I know that some people, like I did it myself. Well, I actually put it out there that we're finishing up. But I know a lot of people will just stop and then they'll just give it to rest and then they'll slowly fade away.
Yeah.
And I know that after, like, give yourself like a month or two, like, you start having that itch of, like, getting back in.
Yeah.
But I've learned over time that everything happens. You got things that happens for a reason, but you also have things that happen for a season.
Yeah.
And just hearing where you guys are currently at in your life now, it was definitely just for a season.
Yeah.
But just because it was for a season doesn't mean there was a reason behind why you guys were doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just my reminder for even the boys out there too. That's like good. You know, don't feel like you have to, you know, jump back on. You know, at the end of the day, like, things change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like the commitment and the heart behind it will be different if you were to try.
Just jump back in just because you miss it or someone's trying to pressure you.
We get that a lot, especially us boys. We get like,
where's it coming back? Yeah,
you know, if it's coming back.
Now, you know what? That's the reason why, like, even when we were talking before we jumped on, like, I never, like, put that, you know, pressure. hey bro, like when it's gonna come back on? Because I already know.
Yeah.
I already know how it is. And like at the end of the day, it was only there for a season, and whatever was done in that season, let it be done.
Right, and it was a good season, man.
Bro.
It was a good season.
Bro, yeah. For me as a person just listening into it, I was like, bro, I love the boys' vibe.
Yeah.
Like you guys vibing, but then I've always been the type to be like, I like deep conversations. I love when, you know, people come in like, you know, with their vulnerability and share what's really going on, because it makes the conversation, but also the time that I'm investing into that,
Worthwhile.
like, yeah, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because you're listening to real and raw stories, and it's by real people.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you go deep into, you know, talking about your upbringing and, you know, life behind the Also Table Talk and you guys being vulnerable.
Yeah. It's all really like thought provoking.
Yeah.
Like that's the word that comes to mind when we have these conversations. It's like we want to make people feel like they want to have an input or they want to start a conversation with their own people, with their own like partners or whatever. I remember the blessing. There was one awesome message that someone messaged us about her husband was sort of in a season of like, I think he was going through some really deep depression, and he had 2 daughters, and like she had like stopped him from you know trying to commit suicide.
Wow.
In a sense, and during that time she didn't know what to say. He wasn't going out to see anybody, so she put on the podcast for him, and eventually she started seeing a lot more joy in him, and through our podcast she was able to see him sort of get his happiness back. And I think that's where that saying comes in, how I was saying before, like we drew people in with our laughs, but we also, people stayed for the deep conversations. And I've always said this like to the boys, like our conversations that we have and our episodes, they're pretty much like surgery. You know, like we're opening people up, and some of these traumas might be coming back up again. But when we close off, like we got to make sure that we're not just leaving them out to dry. Like these are sensitive topics, these are sensitive things, and you never know what other people are going through on the other end of that episode. But it's just understanding, like we've got to make sure that they're looked after as well. And I think that's why we always ended it with like an encouragement. And making sure it was,
which
like,
I do remember,
lightly. You know, we don't want to end it like just
right just
there.
Push it off and be like, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
So it was a big thing for me to make sure that was the case, because like you don't want to go through a surgery and then just leave them out open like that. You know, it's always making sure it's the aftercare. It's the like making sure and checking in and stuff like that. So yeah, and the blessing of that story was just hearing the guy's attitude like change towards his family, simply by just listening to our podcast. And I think that's one thing to remember, is you never know where the other people are at on the other end of the episode. Especially like with you and what you're doing here, man. Like you definitely got a lot of people who aren't just poly, but like I can tell from just your podcasting and your experience as well. Like you've definitely got people who are from all different types of walks of life. And so I just encourage you, bro. Like keep doing it, because you never know like who's behind. Like who's behind that lens, or who's trying to like you know where people are at in their life. And it just, there's always something so powerful about being behind a mic and being on a camera and speaking life to people. And I encourage you, bro. Like what you're doing, giving people the chance to share their stories is good. It's powerful. It makes people relate to your guests, and not only your guests but you as well. Grateful,
bro. Thank you for that, man. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting that after, but I appreciate that, bro. I definitely know that there are people out there that will resonate with what we're doing here at Behind the Brand. And I think that's probably one thing that keeps me going too. It's just I'm always thinking about there's one person there that's listening, It might not be all the podcast episodes, which, you know, I encourage you guys to listen into it, but, you know, all it takes is that one. You know, that one podcast just sparks everything for them. And, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, like on my side of things, is that I actually wanted to, you know, go out there and share all the stories behind the businesses and behind the brand, and so that it allows people out there that are fearing about going out and starting their new thing, whether it's DJing, whether it's, you know, doing freelancing or being a PT or whatever, you know, going out of the norm. Because if you think about the norm, it's, you know, the 9 to 5 job, right? Working 9 to 5. And I'm not dissing any 9 to 5s. I'm still at mine. So I don't diss that, but I always see that there's so much opportunities out there for you to start and to, you know, do your own thing. And what a better place to start than to listen to other people's stories that have gone through, you know, the process of building their brands and building their businesses, but also knowing that they do have a life behind that. Like, if you look at DJ Wavez, that's the brand that you possess and you push out there. But that's not just you. Yeah. And that's the thing I love about this. Like, I love that whoever sits on that seat, whoever's, you know, behind that microphone, I know that there's a much more bigger being than what they possess out there.
Yeah, definitely. Man.
Yeah, and I know that people are watching, they're like, oh man, I didn't know that about Jeremiah, sorry, about your life and stuff, but it is good, man. I feel like this is a new also table talk, eh? Oh, yeah, but bro, I really appreciate you being, like, you know, vulnerable and stuff, but we haven't even got into the main, you know, meat behind what we do.
I know, I'm excited. I'm excited.
We're definitely going to go through with that. But before we do, I like to do like just a really quick icebreaker. Yeah. And it's just like a random question. And looking at, like, you know, looking at Jeremiah, if there was one thing that you'd share on this, or that you're comfortable with, about you that not a lot of people do know about Jeremiah, what would it be?
Oh.
Or are you just a, you know, walking billboard where, you know, you tell everyone everything, you know, like, this is who I am? What would it be? What would it be for Jeremiah?
For people to know what they don't know about me.
Yeah. So what would it be like, no one actually knows that one thing about you? Like, they'll probably look at you and be like, bro, I thought he was the opposite. Or a good one, I would say, for me, just so that it can give you a bit of an idea. Like, a lot of people think, like, they'll look at me and be like, bro, this guy's probably been in all these fights, you know, going through brawls and stuff. I've never been in a brawl before. You know, things like that. Like, I even get asked at work, they're like, bro, surely you've knocked someone out. I said, no, bro. Even though I do got, like, a big fist, like, I haven't, like, punched anyone out.
You know what? That's the same as me.
Really?
I don't think I've ever knocked anyone out.
Yeah. Or even, like, been in a fight or no?
Probably, I've been in a fight, but
okay.
Not really, like
a proper
fight. Okay. I have probably the biggest social anxiety.
Wow.
Which is, like,
ironic.
Yeah.
That's ironic.
It's so ironic.
Yeah.
Like, my life is based around people.
Yeah.
And love for people, but there's a lot of times where I'm around people and I get in my head too much. And I start to think about how I'm portrayed. Yep. And a lot of the times I'm fighting those wars in my mind.
No one would have known that. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
Like, just looking at your, like, just the way that you are, and but even just like the career that you're currently going through, like social work. And I'm not judging anything on social work because I was, you know, in it myself. But, you know, even just going through, like, the DJing side of things, like, literally surrounded by people, and, like, it's like, how can you deal with the social anxiety?
Yeah, and you're having to meet a lot of new people too. And sometimes just,
and not even that, bro, ministry. Like, like, just to top that up, you know.
It's kind of my way to battle it.
Yeah.
It's kind of my way to try and keep going and try and to better myself in that sense. I don't ever want to give into it. Yeah. You know.
Oh yeah, like, let it, like, feed it. Yeah. Like, feed the social anxiety. Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I like to challenge it.
Yeah.
I like to challenge a thought. or I like to challenge a sort of idea. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy. Like, I would not, like, yeah, I don't know. I did not know until now. But you know what? Like, that is a great example of, like, you got people out there that are, going through a lot of struggles. But there's people like yourself who utilize that struggle as a fuel to the flame and use it as a vessel.
Yeah. I feel
That's
bad because
amazing, bro.
my wife cops it the most. Like,
Really?
she sees that when we're around people, I get so anxious to make decisions that she just like would help me get grounded. She would kind of pull me aside and sometimes and just help me ground myself. Yeah. Like, like the grounding techniques of like, this is a table. I feel
like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it the one?
Yeah.
It's like 5, 5. Like I don't know the actual way. Yeah, you have to get the 5 senses of like you know.
What do I see? What do I feel?
Yeah, what's 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch. Yeah. That's definitely a really good grounding technique. Bro.
Yeah, it's just doing that like helps me a lot to kind of catch myself and be like, okay, this is why I'm here.
Yeah, and bring you back into the present. Because I know, even just work with other people, but also like myself, like if I'm ever going through a bit of anxiety, or feeling off, you definitely want to find something that can click you back in. And I've noticed also too that like when you fall into the when you're anxious stuff, you're always in here, but you're not here. Like you're just in your head the whole time.
Especially when and what a job to choose, like DJing, DJing on a platform where like
everyone's watching you and everyone's relying on you.
Oh my gosh! If you stuff up on the set, which I have plenty of times, like you stuff up on the set and everyone's looking back at you like, oh, what'd you do? Like, but even like when on the ministry side of things, like preaching and stuff, like if you ain't good on there, then it's gonna expose you for sure. But that's definitely
social anxiety.
Wow,
that's amazing, bro. And I really appreciate you sharing that, man. Because I know, like, if you think about it, if you battle with social anxiety and you're on a platform, on a podcast, just sharing the fact that you deal with that, that's obviously kicking in. It's definitely going to be kicking in. But, man, there's definitely people out there that are going to be listening to this and saying, one thing for sure is they didn't know that. Yeah. But another thing, too, they're probably going to see just as much more value behind, Jeremiah, which is hectic. Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, but I appreciate it, bro. I really appreciate you sharing that. And one thing I will say I can't relate with you is social anxiety, because being the extrovert that I am, I definitely love people and I can just jump in and just do my thing. That's probably one thing that my fiance would say that I'm really good at is just going out there, like, give me like 100 people and I'll jump in. Whereas her,
are you the person that if she's walking with you in the shopping center and you see someone and you talk with them, and she's like, come on, let's go already?
She knows this, like, when was it? I think we're like, I don't know, like 3-4 hours away from here. And, I think it might have been like, in Perth and then I meet someone that I know and she's like, what the hell? Everywhere we go, there's just someone out there that you know. And I was like, yeah. But it's more like majority of the time it's from footy. One of the footy boys I know. And then I tell her, like, if you look at the ratio, like the teams that I play with every year is different. You've got like 18 players every year and it's just like different cycles. You're definitely going to meet a lot of people in the footy game.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so, but when it comes to social anxiety, I definitely can't relate with that. But that's crazy, man. Yeah. That's crazy what you're doing. And I applaud you.
Thank you, man.
I applaud you, bro, for even just coming out and sharing that. So grateful, man. Grateful.
Thank you.
We're gonna head into like the meat behind the brand. So we've looked behind the brand and behind DJ Wavez, which is Jeremiah. But I want to talk about your business, which is obviously your DJing, and essentially, with the behind the brand, like our main goal is to help businesses out there, people to start their business, but also people out there that are already having their business and growing. And so I wanted to start off with like DJ Wavez. Where did that name come from?
Right. It was
Wait, sorry, DJ Wavez.
DJ Wavez. It was pretty much like one of the boys was one of my boys I was talking to. I was just kind of juggling around names and stuff like that, and he asked me. I know this is such a like simple story. He asked me, "What do you like?" I'm like, "I love the beach."
Yo.
Then that's where naturally Waves came out, but I thought just add a Z instead of a S.
Yeah.
And that's where that name came from. Like it was nothing really like special
Yeah.
or like a crazy story about it. That's just how it came.
It wasn't like a mountain
Yeah.
experience where you're like, oh, got the epiphany, it's DJ Wavez. But it's more like, just something to get started on.
Yeah.
Which, realistically speaking, when people start, they usually start off with just something to get themselves out there.
Yeah.
And
It was really just a muck around.
Yeah.
At the time, but I think because it stuck, and I started sort of working on that, from the get go. Like my first gig was a backyard gig, a birthday, 18th birthday. I think I only got like $200 from that.
Wow.
And it was good, bro. $200 for me at that time was like, oh my gosh.
First of all, you're actually getting paid. You're actually getting paid to DJ.
Yeah.
Because even when you were talking to me about it before, like you're doing DJing like at church, like that's where it all started. So
it was weird because I started DJing at church on my iPhone.
Whoa.
I think they had like the little apps, the DJ apps, and that's how it kind of started for me. Like youth services, you know, like you gotta have the hype music and stuff like that. And I was just like playing with it on the aux. And I think I started like falling in love with it. I was like, bro, this is actually hectic.
Yeah.
Like I started buying tracks off like iTunes at the time.
Bruh. Back in the days, was it like what, like $1.99, $2.99? Yeah. Those are like, that's how old we are. Eh?
So you know what I'd do? I'd wait till they make like the 101 party songs or party hits.
Oh, then you just cut
and
them
then
up?
I'd wait till that album drops and then I buy the whole thing instead of going to buy $2 of each.
Bro, you know what's funny? I think I only bought one. I think I only bought one track of the iTunes.
Oh yeah.
But obviously, YouTube's MP3 player. You know that one, like back in those days. That's how I got all the songs. Just don't come at me, guys. But yeah.
Yeah,
I only bought one.
Like pretty much, I was playing the songs off my iPhone at the time, and then it wasn't until I bought my first MacBook that's when I realized like I could actually get into this a bit more. My wife ended up like girlfriend at that time.
Yep.
She ended up buying me my first Beats headphones and a DJ deck.
Wow.
Small DJ deck as a gift, and from there it was just like grinding in my bedroom, just making sure like I knew what to do for that birthday. Came for that first gig that I did, the 18th birthday, and from there just grew. Like I knew from there it was just a process of getting anything that I could get. There was gigs where it was like I don't get paid anything at all. Good old exposure gigs. You know?
Yeah, we talked about that before, but we'll keep that between me and you. Yeah. Oh wow.
But yeah, I think like for the longest time, I think for 4 years straight, I was just doing a lot of exposure gigs and also trying to build a relationship with like other people, just in general. I quickly learned that for branding wise, like especially for a DJ, your social media is your resume. People when they first hear about someone, they look straight away to their Instagram or whatever social platform that you're on. And I think from that time, I ended up growing into understanding that was something I needed to do. But this is what holds me back, was the social anxiety of things.
Yeah. Which is what, obviously, we just brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently.
So, like, you can have so many people in the like in the room tell you that you're a good DJ, but online, that's a different story.
Yeah. So it's funny. You got social anxiety. You got social media anxiety. That's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And trying to put yourself out there, and I can understand where you're coming from because, we definitely both know social media is your resume, and you're trying to put out there and like show to people your stuff, and then just the power of social media. You know, the power of the keyboard warriors just want to come in and their 2 cents. And I've noticed too, is that majority of them are our own people.
Yeah,
I don't know if you noticed that, but
yeah,
it's definitely our own people just behind, I don't know, behind a blank profile picture, but you know, it is what it is. If you know, you know.
I can't stand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that was one of my biggest challenges, like to overcome, was to try and find ways of being comfortable with actually posting content.
Yeah.
And that took quite a couple of years actually for me as a DJ. But career-wise, I ended up moving into getting a gig with NRL, which was one of my favorite things.
Yeah. How'd you get hold of that?
So a good close friend of mine, Arthur Meredith.
Yo.
He helped me connect into that sort of field, and being a game day DJ with the Bulldogs. So anytime they had a home game, it was like I'm there playing the music for them. And it's exciting, man. Like game days are so much fun.
And plus, you're an actual fan of Bulldogs.
Of the Bulldogs.
So it
really
had to
helped.
mention that. Yeah.
It really helped, especially on the days when it's not so good. I was like, proud to be a dog. Proud to be a dog.
Yeah.
Well, it was good. One of my favorite things is like learning off other people, and I get to be behind the scenes learning with the production team, seeing how what you see on TV is actually done and put together. And so like being in and amongst that, like hearing the comms and all that stuff, I love that stuff. I love process. I love learning like how things came about. I could sit on YouTube watching factory workers for ages because I like knowing how did that get from there to my plate.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just interesting things like that I can find myself watching. So back to my career, it was definitely a journey, like going through that NRL process and sort of understanding how things worked. And from there, I think a lot more gigs came through after sort of being comfortable with posting about and doing NRL, birthdays, weddings and stuff like that. Eventually I ended up teaming up with DJ Peter Guns.
Yo.
And
he's been in the game for a long time.
And bro, I've looked up to him and Tickles for like years, man. Like those guys, if you don't know, like Fresh of the Boat, my gosh, the best mixtapes ever. And I feel like it's the soundtracks of our people. Like I love listening to it. I love I just remember like meeting him at a wedding. We had talked a bit online, and I met him at a wedding. And this is the part that I really loved about meeting him was he knew I was already under a management from someone else. And this is the side of things that they don't tell you is with DJing, like you got to know your worth in terms of financial wise. I was doing like a 5-hour gig for like 5 hours for $50 an hour. And I thought, bro, I'm making heaps of money because if it's better than my 9 to 5.
Wow.
You know, I was holding the crowd down for 5 hours straight and getting only $50 an hour.
That's pennies, bro.
And I didn't know that at the time. Like I think that was me for like 2 years straight.
Wow.
I didn't know that's like I could hold a crowd too. And by holding a crowd, I mean like, you know, keep them dancing, keep them moving.
Get them entertained.
And it wasn't until Peter Guns came in and told me like you need to cut that because that guy's ripping you off. Like I didn't know that he's charging, like the manager is charging the venue on behalf of the DJ. And so he could be charging the venue like $100 and only giving me $50. And I didn't know that's how it works. No one ever was like to teach me the works of
because you
of how it's
started
done.
Because when you were doing DJing, you started from your phone.
Yep.
Then went from your phone to your girlfriend at the time, which is your wife now.
Yeah.
investing into the beats and into your DJ, and that's all you had known, and also YouTube, like going through doing the self-taught stuff. So along the way, you didn't actually get taught like the business side of things, which is like the managers and
going into my first club side of things. Like going from birthdays to doing clubs. Like I had no idea. It was just this guy like that I met at a pub once, and like he had all the great intentions and stuff like that. And I thought, yeah, why not? Like to get into the club scene would be great, like crazy. And to see, like I look back at it now, I am grateful. Like it did help me a lot, but knowing that I was worth more, like man, I was definitely getting ripped off, man. And I think that's something I was really happy to have Peter Guns, and cross paths with him, and that way he could help me out to understand like how this business side of things, the money side of things, the things that are gonna get you like more DJ gears, how it really works. And it was really good, like to have him pull me along and sort of help me out, mentor. Him and his team have definitely more experienced in the season in sort of DJing, the DJing scene. So having them sort of mentor me has been really great. And I'm grateful for that too.
And that's one thing that's also helped you out through your social anxiety too, eh? Like going out there knowing that you're not alone. And you're surrounded by people that you definitely can trust.
Solid team, man. Solid team. And I love like learning off them as well. It's been great. Like watching the OGs cut it on the decks, bro. It's like, oh my gosh.
You know, too, man, they're just so natural. Like they play it off as if it's nothing. Like, just watching like, how do they do this? How do they do that? Or for you, it'll be different. You'll probably be thinking like, bro, they still got it. Like, you know.
I just sit back and I love listening to, like, I don't know what it is, but I love being that little kid, like in a like on his first train ride or something, and just like being in awe.
Or
like,
being at a candy shop. You know, just being enlightened by all the food and all that. Hold on, let's not talk about food here.
That's a natural thing for us. Like I think my DJing journey is just it's been good. I can't really say I can't really say like it's where I want it to be. But in terms of like how far I've come, like man, I think I've done really well. But I will say like one thing I see a lot now is in the DJ scene with a lot of the young ones coming up as well. Like there's this almost a need to sort of really like pop off so much.
I've noticed that.
And there's that pressure to pop off so much on socials. And it's crazy because like it works. It does help you out. But at the same time, like I just feel sorry for anyone who's trying to pursue that and doesn't hit it. And then
they don't got that X factor or that specialty behind them, and or even like let's say social media having that ability to engage in the audience. You feel sorry for them.
I feel sorry for them in a sense of like just they're trying to chase something that might not work out well for them. But if it does, it does, man. Like and I wish them all the best. But like I've seen the ugly side of it. I've seen some DJs really try and pursue that side of things, and like come in front of a crowd and absolutely like rubbish, like, and it's killed them, bro. Like it's actually killed their spirit to actually want to DJ, and I think like you just gotta be in that room, just like in your like go back to the basics of DJing, fall in love with it again. Learn to really actually enjoy the craft before going out there and trying to be on a stage and stuff.
I think one thing that pops up to my mind is like laying that foundation. You know, if you think about like if you look at any buildings out there, any apartments, you live in one, don't you? If you look at the apartments out there, like in order for them to build like a really high, apartments, they've got to dig real deep down into the ground and cement that and then build up from there. And I feel like, yeah, if we're talking about like up and coming DJs, definitely building that solid foundation,
Yeah, man.
having that and having those real deep foundations coming through. Now, my question to you is, if you had to utilize that analogy of building that foundations, what would be the foundations to build for those out there that are starting off as DJs, or the ones that you're talking about are trying to pop but they're not getting that little edge. So if we're talking about foundations here, what would be the foundations that you would say to like look into more in terms of that journey, DJing journey?
Honestly, I would say take what you can. Like, take as many gigs as you can. Don't feel bad. Like, don't hold back from. Don't feel like you're too big for a small gig. Yeah, I think so many times, some people only DJ for like 2 years or a year, and they feel like they're too good for like certain gigs. Like, bro, you never know who's gonna be at that gig. One thing I've always made sure is when I'm like, I get booked a lot for birthdays and weddings and stuff. And some of the birthdays, like, it's like it feels like it's just another birthday, but you also got to remember, like, man, you're putting your name out there, and you got to make sure you're putting best effort that you can get, because eventually people are paying you for your time.
Your service too,
and for you to service them as a business. So, like, making sure that you're prepared and also punctual and also not drunk.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, we kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
Which is really important. Like, you got to kind of treat it as a business, and you got to remind people, like, that you're serious about what you're doing. Yeah, my main thing is just making sure that you're not like too big for a gig that a small gig that you don't want to do. Like, I've done some really, really different gigs, man. I think I did a funeral once, which was quite tough. Like, it's not exactly a vibe kind of event, so but I was grateful for that experience. I did it. I can say I've done it.
Yeah.
I've also done like some. I think I've done a 100th birthday.
Oh,
which is
what a milestone!
Weird. Yeah,
it's a milestone for them, but it's a milestone for you to be like, I've done a 100th birthday. Yeah.
That was actually pretty cool. Like, it was called. I was sort of looking. Okay, what did they play in 1920s?
Yeah, that's
like,
a good point.
What's the song? It's experience. It's all those little things that, like, you can say you're more versatile now. Like, I can go to a club and play and read a room, and one of the main things is I love that is I'm able to read the room and sort of test out, like, through the first couple of minutes. Okay, what songs are they liking? Are they liking the sing-alongs? Are they liking the SoundCloud edits? Are they liking the top 40s? Or do they want just straight club bangers of like Drake? All that stuff.
Or even like I've noticed now, like TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, you have those trends. Yeah.
The moment, it's weird. It's so tough. Honestly, as a DJ, it's so tough because you've only got the 20-second parts of that song, and then the rest of the song, they don't want to dance to it. It's like, like,
you gotta find something to
I'm
like
gonna find
transition.
something to go straight away.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, all those little gigs that might seem little, and you might think like you're above, like, they end up helping you in the end. They end up helping to your experience, adding to your value as a business, especially if you're a DJ. So then you're able to know, like, because I did that 100th birthday, there was obviously elderly there. So the next time I have a gig where there's elderly people,
or like a 60th or something.
I know what pops off for them. Like, and it's eventually, like, pretty much what the way people feel about your service is how they're gonna remember you. So if you're like making them like party crazy, like, they're gonna remember that name. Like, this guy was a gun DJ. I've been blessed enough to see the power of word of mouth. So because like one DJ is helping out another, like I DJ one event, and then they'll be like sending out sort of my details to someone else. Like I didn't really have to advertise as much, but I was blessed to be able to see the power of word of mouth. Yeah, I have a quotes when people ask for my services, my DJing, and I would send out like a questionnaire of like
what they're wanting and stuff. Yeah,
the details of like pretty much the event, things like that. And I've always had a question of how did you hear about me? And one of the big ones has always been seeing them say like, oh, you played at this person's birthday.
Yeah.
So we requested you for our one. And it's crazy. I always see that a lot, especially my family.
Yeah, true.
This is just a PSA to my family. I'm not doing any more family gigs, bro. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so so just going back to the advice that you would give to those out there that are probably trying to get into the game, trying to pop off, you would probably say the foundational side of, like, in terms of like if we had to use the analogy of the apartments and building like, you know, the skyscrapers and looking at the deeper foundations, you would say like going through the basics of, what would be the basics for that?
Like taking anything.
Yeah.
Like taking.
So not being
gigs.
too big. Not kind of going ahead and feeling like you're
like taking all the small gigs, the awkward gigs, like get any experience that you can. Like gain experience by just going out and checking out a DJ. I love being like I said, that student or that kid in a chocolate room, and it's one of those things, like I feel like we need to be soaking in so much more before doing something, going ahead with something. And gaining that experience is going to be beneficial in your foundation for going out there and doing it yourself.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, bro. I wanted to utilize, going back to this analogy of the skyscrapers or apartments. So you've got the foundation, right? You've got to dig a real deep hole, fill out with, you know, cement, which will be your foundation.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna look at the actual building itself, and if you look at it from a analogy perspective, people don't see what's under.
Yeah.
People don't see their foundation. People don't see what you just mentioned, which is going out there and doing all the awkward stuff, doing the basics. Now, I want to look at you and looking at, you know, if you think about building, there's always going to be moments where you're going to be struggling to build. If you look at the construction guys, they're probably going through, you know, their own journeys and stuff, if we're looking at it based on like a construction standpoint. But going into your life and, you know, incorporating this analogy into you being a DJ, what would you say was probably the biggest struggles that you went through your journey of DJing, or being a DJ?
Biggest struggles, I feel like, was like it's a big game, man. Like, cause there's so many other DJs out there. Like, it's almost there's this sense of comparison that you kind of feel, and I think that was one thing I had to fight myself. Was just reminding myself, like, I'm not the best DJ, but I'm my own kind of DJ, and finding that happiness to be actually happy with what you do. Sometimes you always, like, we get so many compliments in what we do, that because you've seen better, you start to sort of deflecting
you don't really
that.
take it
you
in.
don't really take it in. Like, people start actually saying, like, man, you're an awesome DJ. But then, because you've been exposed to better, you've seen better, it's like, yeah, I'm all right.
I'm all right, but I'm not as better as, you know, this person.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, I think the dangerous side of things with DJing, because there's so many DJs out there, and they're killing it too, man. Especially Sydney, man, there's so many guys, amazing DJs. And I love, like, getting in and amongst them, and sort of building a relationship with them as well. So it's cool. But I would say that's probably one of the toughest things. Comparison, especially on socials.
Yeah. And it's a hard thing because you were just mentioning about like social media being like your resume,
Yeah,
and you like utilizing that platform to share
Yeah.
what you're doing. But in of itself, like you're also, as you're posting that, you're also seeing like the other content from other DJs, and
yeah,
yeah, definitely something that I think a lot of other people will be struggling. I don't even think it's just DJing. I think it's just business itself.
yeah.
Like when you're seeing other people crushing it, or you like for me, for example, I actually, funnily enough, I actually follow other creators out there that I have a bit of envy
Mm.
of, and I only do that for me to ground myself to be like, okay, if those are the people that you're wanting to be and
Like, yeah,
and be like and see like don't have that judgment on them and be like, oh, and be jealous. It's like I actually have envy, saying like I would love to be in your position
yeah.
and learn,
I think the same thing too.
yeah,
Yeah,
and see like, okay, what do you do? Like, how did you get to where you're coming from? And
yeah,
I think that's the beauty behind business and the beauty behind your own brand and doing your own thing is that there's no limitation and there's no, I guess, set rules out
Yeah.
there, and you're definitely gonna learn a lot about yourself, like running your own thing. I know for sure you just by you laughing now, you
Yeah.
definitely learn a lot about yourself
yeah, definitely.
through
Man.
doing it at the start, like doing your own thing, especially DJing too. Like I know, like even just being a person in the crowd, never DJed in my life, but I personally love music.
Mm.
In high school was doing music. Any instrument that I played, including the triangle. That little
Wow.
triangle, yeah. Just
I
setting the pace.
was a trombone in primary school.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny enough. If there was one thing I wanted to learn was anything that to do with like the brass, trumpet, trombone, whatever you like. I was definitely keen on doing that. But anyways, going back to what we're talking about, struggles, comparison,
yeah.
definitely something that a lot of people deal with in business. My question to you, bro, is how do you work around that? Because that's definitely something that you still like deal with day to day in terms of comparing yourself, seeing other DJs doing well. Like, what's something that you kind of do to, I guess, work around that?
Bro, just have fun. I feel like sometimes it's just all noise, and it's just something you need to work around. Like I've definitely come a long way and overcome sort of those sort of things.
Yep.
But just having that mentality to just have fun, enjoy actually DJing, and being bold. Like one of the things I started doing now was recording more of my sets.
Yeah, I've noticed
actually, like just putting my phone out on the table and just not caring. Like if someone comes and says like, "Oh, who do you think you are?"
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those things. I'm here. I'm having fun, and if it works out, like, bro, it's gonna be awesome. And it's so much more freeing when you play without that sort of conscious of like, there's another DJ in the room.
Yeah.
He's gonna be judging me.
Yeah.
Like, nah, man, just do you. Just have fun.
Mm.
And it's just a lot more freeing when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, this is amazing. I'm just kind of sitting in the present being like, bro, I'm so glad I got you on here, bro. Definitely grateful. Now we're gonna slowly like wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
But before I get into what we usually do as part of the Behind the Brand, if there was one actionable, I guess, advice that you would give to people out there, probably look more so around people that want to get into DJing, but there are people out there that are starting a business or wanting to grow. What advice would you give to them? Maybe focus on the business side of thing.
Yeah.
So if we've got the followers out there that are wanting to either start or grow their business.
Yeah.
Just utilizing your journey as an example. What advice would you want to give to them?
Keep showing up.
Yo.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Keep showing up.
Like, why would you show up? Like, what's...
I feel like there's a lot of things that you can experience in the journey that sort of defer you from the goal or the business. And sometimes even the slightest remark or the smallest trials in your journey, your business journey might sort of rock you a bit and make you not want to show up on days you need to show up, or make you not want to be consistent in doing the smallest things that are unseen.
Yep.
I know for a lot of us business people, where there's a lot of things that we do that are unseen.
Oh, 100%.
And there's a lot of things that are behind that, the hours and the little things that we do. Keep showing up to that. Keep showing up in those unseen things, and also the things that like help your business. Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell. Just keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Definitely, that's something that I need to hear. So, appreciate it, bro.
Oh, good.
Appreciate you sharing that. Now, as we start wrapping up this podcast episode, what we do is we actually get the previous special guest to ask a question for you.
Okay.
So the previous, our guests from the last episode, they've asked you this question, and then you get the opportunity, like after we finish this, you get the opportunity to ask the question for the next person.
All right.
Yeah. So the question that they've asked for you is, when will I'm gonna rephrase this, but when will it be time for you where you can say I've made it? Like the definition of you saying, okay, I've actually made it. What would be that time, or like if you had to envision it, what does that look like to you in the DJing space? You'd be like, you look around and be like, bro, I've definitely made it. What would that be?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I think I could definitely say I've made it when it's become my full-time job.
Ooh, okay.
Like, it's sort of almost at the point where I'm earning more than my main job.
That's usually the goal. The goal is that once you make a bit more than what you're making at your current job, that's when you start slowly drifting. But you're definitely wanting to get to the point where
it's more of a full-time
it's
thing.
more, yeah.
And I could say that that's definitely a point where I could say I've made it. But at the moment, that's pretty much. I would say, like, one of my favorite things, just in regards to that question, one of my favorite things that I love hearing, especially after an event, is like, one more song. You're probably one of those people.
Bro, get us another song, bro.
To me, that says like, I don't know. It's not like a major, like I made it kind of moment, but it makes me feel grateful because I'm like, man, I did the best I could. If they're really wanting more like me to play more longer, and those are those. I don't know. I don't feel like we ever get to have those big moments of saying I made it, because there's always room to grow. There's always things to learn.
But that's currently where you are right now. Like, once you get to the point where you're doing it full time,
I'd love that.
That will definitely be like a definition for you of like, I've made it. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own, definition or own reason as to what has made it for them. But for Jeremiah, it would be doing DJing full time.
Yeah.
And also getting paid more, like getting paid for his worth.
Yeah.
But also to getting paid more than what he was getting at his current job. Yeah.
I feel like I would love to just be able to just DJ, and also have this like ministry side of things as well. But
yeah, that's crazy. And so obviously you've answered the question from our previous guest.
Yeah.
After this, when we finish up, you'll have an opportunity to ask the question for the next special guest. So yeah, man. But yeah, we're pretty much gonna wrap it up, bro. I'm so grateful,
Thank you, man.
So grateful for this opportunity to have a chat with you.
This is awesome, man. Like, thank you so much for having me on here. I honestly, like, this is kind of crazy because it's like blowing my mind about like it's one thing to see it on YouTube like tutorials, especially this setup.
Yeah,
like,
the
this
setup of it,
amazing
yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
It's crazy. By the way, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see it on like those tutorials and things, but then seeing it actioned out, it's crazy.
But not even that, but being inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even having the light above you.
Yeah, bro. I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw that.
The first thing you said, was like,
oh my gosh, the lighting's amazing.
on point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's crazy good, and I love being inspired. I love what you're doing here too, man. Like everyone has a story, everyone has things to share and a journey to tell, and you just never know who's out there to listen.
Yeah.
And be inspired by it. I'm one who loves to listen to stories, and so I applaud you, man. Thank you for giving me the platform to be on here and share my story, or even just a glimpse of my story. But thank you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for not going off at me for missing yesterday.
It's all good, bro. It's all right. We'll keep that in the back. Keep that at the back there. No, but I appreciate you jumping on, man, taking out your time.
Thank you, bro.
And also too, bro, just being vulnerable to come up,
Yeah,
you know, and share, like, you know, a lot of the things that you mentioned today. Like, I'm definitely just grateful, bro, that we're able to have the opportunity to have a chat, but also too, you know, give it out to the audience and give them a side of you that they didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what Behind the Brand's all about, you know, getting people on here, having an opportunity for them to share exactly who they are behind the scenes. Because, you know, everyone just sees you at face value, DJ Wavez.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's Jeremiah behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you know, carrying that and seeing the journey where you're coming from. So, yeah, man, really grateful for you taking out your time. But there are most likely going to be people out there that want to, like, you know, reach out to you and, you know, it might be through DJing or just wanting to know more about you and your life story. So if there was any chance that they would want to reach out to you, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Instagram's mostly easy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on there.
What's the handle?
Jeremiah.waves.
With a Z?
With the Z.
With the Z. Remember the Z, right? So Jeremiah dot or underscore?
I always just said my whole like email.
Yeah,
hotmail.com.
So for those out there that are watching this on YouTube, make sure you guys check out the link will be down in the description down below. But if you're on Spotify, it'll be on the description, but it's best for you to jump on the Behind the Brand and we can get you guys connected through there.
Yeah. Or
even just go through his Instagram and check through that. But guys, that's it. That's all we got. Is there anything that you want to share before we finish up?
No, just want to say thank you. Shout out to my wife. Love you.
Thank you for looking after Mana. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you for jumping on. But guys, that's it. That's all we got. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for jumping on board, bro. And guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Jeez.
I'm doing it.